Hi, thanks for joining us for the unedited raw version of Fluffy the Grampire Slayer. I'm going to give you some insight and input on what went on when we made this fine movie, and also you're going to be able to see all the movie in its entirety before I did any editing and cutting and made it into the fine Academy Award-winning motion picture that you saw earlier. So sit back and enjoy. I will do my best to keep you enlightened and entertained as we go through here. The beautiful scenery you're seeing right through here, right along the river, is Middle Fork Bishop Creek, right through camp and Sabrina Campground, where we actually stayed and filmed this entire film. Some of you might ask, where in the heck did we come up with Fluffy the Grampire Slayer? Well, we'll start with Fluffy, Andrew Brown. Ever since we've known him, and ever since he's been around, he's been a very light-haired but very hairy young man with a thick mane on his back, especially, that would turn white throughout the summer when we were going to the pool and out in the sun. So I started calling him Fluffy back when he was about 4 years old. So he picked up that nickname quite a ways back. What you see right here is actually supposed to be the Grampire's den, but on paper and in design, the scene actually came out much better than it filmed, so we pretty much deleted it out of the final cut. Now, the term Grampire, my father, Dave Brown Sr., actually came about from a few years back before this movie was filmed, when during a rainstorm he was wearing a yellow poncho walking around with shorts underneath, and you'll see the actual cover of the disc and also a couple other spots where we've got the actual original picture, and he actually is doing some sort of a Grampire pose. And on top of that, his major aversion to anything with garlic in it, he was picked up that nickname of Grampire quite a few years back. So that gives you the background on where we came up with Fluffy the Grampire Slayer. Of course, sitting around the campfire with a few snakebite remedies and maybe a couple cereal malt beverages involved with it too. So that's the whole idea came about from there and blossomed into this.
I'm the winner. You get a point? No.
The scene you're watching here wound up being very, very, very long. Throughout the various editing sections I went through, I wound up cutting it back and cutting it back and cutting it back and cutting it back. Otherwise, you would have been quite bored, as everybody in the original pre-screenings were. So, didn't really help the film's length to include George and Sean playing almost an entire 4 or 5 rounds of horseshoes on the one scene as we watch it here. The whole premise behind this scene was where I get up and walk over, pull out my digital camera, and start taking some pictures very nonchalantly just of scenery out and about. And the actual same thing I will actually continue on the second scene. I wound up cutting these two scenes pretty dramatically together. We didn't need anywhere near as much. And you'll also notice that since we didn't have an actual cameraman on this scene, we wound up with myself being completely cut off. So that's another reason the scene was quite affected by part of our poor planning and very, very limited experience on filmmaking. I must have realized that we had the scene off-center, because now I've got it more centered and actually doing a much better job of focusing on exactly what we wanted to get in this scene. So it actually worked out really well after catching it. It's really hard to believe that as we go through these scenes here where the group is sitting around and relaxing in the shade, keeping out of the sun, and doing what campers do, just kind of kicking back and drinking some beers. None of the dialogue that came in here was scripted or prepared. It was all 100% pretty much ad-libbed, and it's amazing that it came out so natural and so smooth, and the performances were pretty incredible. In fact, it's amazing to think that they've been overlooked by the Academy of Motion Pictures and Arts over the years. I had a couple ideas of some of the things I was going to be saying as we went through here, and I had just thrown out, like I did in all the scenes, just a real basic general idea of how we're going to go with the planning of the actual scene, and then we kind of went from there. There was no rehearsing. I know Scotty I had sat down with Scotty and gone over a few ideas of the legend of Grampire, but he pretty well ad-libbed through and did his own preparation for the actual legend of Grampire, which comes out here. So came out really phenomenally well, considering there was absolutely no script, no preparation involved.
Special vampire can go out in the daytime.
The next scene coming up, where I pull out the camera and start looking through and find the picture of what turns out to be Grampire on the corner, was really hard to pull off. It was very difficult to edit, but once I was able to actually get the picture and cut the picture to the right sizes, it actually came out really well. I was very pleased how it came out. I wish I could have had some better detail on the picture itself, but I'm pretty pleased with the way it edited together. So it was one of the tougher edits of the whole movie.
What is that?
Hey,
What the heck is
the
that?
heck's in the corner of this picture? Look, this one.
Was anything there when you took the
As
I always
difficult
take two
as
of the
the
same picture.
camera
This
scene
one has
was
nothing.
to get edited in,
got something in
even
it.
more difficult it was to not actually
No,
take
there
any
was
looks at the
nothing there when I
camera,
took the picture.
or to make sure everybody knew not to stand in front of the camera as they went through. So that was one of the more difficult things involved too. Throughout here, you'll see people peeking at the camera. You'll see
That's somebody over there.
myself even looking over at the camera numerous times throughout. So just a bunch of amateurs
But it
making a
ain't
movie.
raining. Why do they have a cape on?
Now here we finally get to get George into the movie, and he was probably about the least excited out of all of the cast members about actually being in the movie. He had fun making it, but he wasn't all that excited about it. And he was definitely very excited at the point when I kind of threw it out to all the cast members, said, okay, who wants to be first to die in the movie? And George kind of jumped up and waved his arms up and down and definitely was volunteering, and I had to make sure that we got him in first as the first death as we went through.
Been waiting for a long time to be able to get a chance to do that. You gonna be too afraid to go on a four-wheel drive road there, Fluffy?
Well, after George walks off and goes off to do his thing in the trees, we have a little bit more banter. Notice the book that Scotty's reading, and I believe that's actually a McManus book of humor. As we pan around here, take a look at everybody in the actual cast, and we hear George's scream, and then we come up with one of the best one-liners in the entire show. So I will pick up in a second here for you.
He'll be alright.
Go look for George.
He's a tough guy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he should. Maybe that's what he sounds like when he pees.